What's going on, everybody? I got a real special treat today. I don't know if this is going to be very long or not. We got him. We got Italian Joe. Oh man, I don't even know what to make of this. Let's get into it, man. I'm gonna just throw this thing over and we'll get it going. All right, let me. I just gotta set a couple things here, and we're good to roll. All right. Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, can I hear you?
You're good, man.
I have a request.
Yeah, what's your request?
My request is very simple. I'd like to do not talk about anything Hideo Kojima said or showed about Death Stranding before the Gamescom 2019, because I'm not going to have spoilers before I play the game. So this is the only request I have.
So don't talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Don't talk everything about Kojima did from the Gamescom up to now, including trailers, interviews, because I don't want to know anything. I'm just posting pictures without giving too much attention to anything. That's the only request I have.
I got you. I will be able to fulfill that request. So you haven't seen anything since Gamescom then?
I see only some thumbnail about YouTube videos, but I didn't read anything, theories, news. I'm just reporting links for the future, for when I'm going to revisit everything after I completed the Death Stranding.
Okay, that is awesome. Because one of my first questions for you was going to be about your posts. I love your posts. I think that the style in which you post and the things that you post is so unique. I call it Joe posting, and it's one of my favorite things on NBGO. But I didn't know that you had kind of kept yourself in the dark. That's very cool. I figured you were as up to date as anybody else.
I can say I know, unfortunately, that Geoff Keighley is inside the game.
Right.
I saw a thumbnail about it, so I couldn't avoid that spoiler. But I know the Doritos Pope is in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in those trailers, so I'm proud of you for avoiding the spoilers, man. That's diehard. But I won't bring anything up about it. What I will ask then, let's go backwards, is where did this all start for you, Joe? I know you're a Metal Gear fan. I know you have some serious collections in terms of the copies of the games that you own. So, how did you get into this stuff?
I get into the stuff a very long time ago. It was about 1993 when I played to my house on my uncle on his Amiga 5000 home computer. Do you know Amiga home computers? Are you familiar with?
I never owned one, but I am familiar.
Let's say it's just a 16-bit version of the Commodore 64.
Okay.
Which was an 8-bit home computer from the 80s.
So like a beefy, like a souped-up Commodore 64, basically. Like you're saying it's
just about the processing power is maybe a Super Nintendo for home computers.
Okay.
That's So I remember I played a Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake port on a floppy disks.
On floppy disks?
Yes, it was a bootleg copy.
That's awesome.
For the Amiga, basically.
That's awesome. Keep going.
And I remember when I played this, which my uncle also has a Metal Gear First on floppy disk for the Commodore Amiga. It was the both were the MSX2 MSX computer home consoles ports for the Amiga. So it wasn't the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System port of Metal Gear for Commodore.
Okay.
Which, ironically, I also had in the past a cassette tape version of the NES Metal Gear for the Commodore 64.
A cassette tape version.
Yes.
Oh,
the
man.
one with the giant screen
Yeah,
as Metal Gear Final Boss.
The blue screen at the end, the big computer you have to blow up with C4.
Yes.
That's awesome. And it was on a cassette tape?
Yeah, it was on a cassette tape because we here in Europe, the floppy disk format of the Commodore wasn't so much spread.
Right.
Unlike it happened into US. Because here in Europe it was very easy to found copies of games on cassette tapes, pretty much everywhere.
So you started back in 1993 playing the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake on floppy disks and cassette tapes. That is badass.
Yes.
That's so you're.
I never played.
You're officially.
I never.
Go ahead.
I never played the original on home console and on an original Hideo Kojima games MSX
right.
Metal Gears on an original MSX home computer, because here in Italy the MSX computer has basically has never spread around, because the leading system was the Commodore 64 back then.
Right. Well,
so it's.
So you really have been at this a long time, and you've been at it way longer than everybody I've talked to. Because everybody I've talked to is, the oldest of them is close to my age, and I'm almost 30. So I only really started with Metal Gear Solid. I had to go back and play those games. I think the first time I played them was probably for when they had them
2005, the subsistence version of MGS3.
Yeah, you know your stuff. And I want to say I probably had an emulator version on a like a regular Windows 95, maybe 98, that I tried to play whenever the first Super Nintendo and Nintendo emulators had come out. But I didn't get to play that original MSX version through an emulator until years later. So I have to ask then, in 1998, were you excited for Metal Gear Solid? What were your thoughts in 1998?
About 1998, I was still playing arcade video games. So
okay.
When I have money to spend on video games, I used to go to arcades playing Capcom, Neo Geo, Data East, Sega, pretty much everywhere I was able to find to put my hands on it.
So,
but around the end of 1998, I started to look around the video games magazines, which I never considered to spend money, because, as I said, when I have money, I spend to play video games instead of buy a piece of paper
right.
to look for video games.
Right.
So, but around that age, I saw an Italian copy of the PlayStation magazine, the non-official one.
Okay.
The PSM in the US.
Right, yeah.
And the cover of the December number 1998 was displaying, you guessed it, Metal Gear Solid.
Was that that wasn't the cover with Gray Fox, was it?
Was a cover in Italian, was a cover with Solid Snake.
Okay.
And Meryl.
All right. And was it the Shinkawa artwork?
No, it was back then. It was all made by artists like Oprisco. It was a comic book style, and it was
cool.
Nothing about official.
Oh, very cool. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Keep going. So you're looking at this magazine.
So when I look at this magazine, I looked that the game in US was already came out. So the game has the second part of the strategy guide to complete the game inside. I didn't watch those pages because I was waiting the game. I understand that magazine was uh, was in Italian, was English language-based content translated for the Italian audience on
Okay.
that magazine. So we were about 3 months behind always. If you don't
Damn.
know, the European version of Metal Gear Solid came out in February or March. I don't remember. About 2-3 months later than the US, because of the more language to localize about the voice acting. So because of these discrepancies with the times, I already learned the lesson to don't trust the paper about information, because those papers are referred to another audience instead of mine. So we were always behind.
Right. So when did you finally end up playing the game? Did you get to play it that year, or did you have to wait?
I played it that year to a house of my friend who buy the Italian copy, but it was not original. It was a bootleg on a CD copied for his modified PlayStation.
Oh,
It was the Italian version, but it wasn't original. So I played it to my old school friend named Carmine, who showed me the beginning on the game. And when he showed the beginning, I immediately recognized it was the game I played 5 years earlier.
right.
Because when I read the title Metal Gear Solid, I didn't remember immediately, because it wasn't a 2D like the previous ones, and the character it wasn't made by sprites, but it was just a polygon. So visually, if you don't remember really, if you until you don't play the game first, you don't recognize immediately it was Metal Gear, even
Right.
if the name was very similar. Because when I played to my uncle's house, I didn't know even about the title of the game. I just sit down, I found this game, my uncle was playing, I played, I asked to play, he showed me how to play with the keyboard, using the cross buttons on the keyboard. There's no joypad, no joystick, nothing, just like if you play on the original MSX computer, if you think about it.
This is so incredible. I just need to I need to point out. So by 1998, you hadn't played a official copy of Metal Gear yet. You had played pretty much only bootleg copies, and
I bought my original copy about 2 years later,
oh wow,
right before playing Sons of Liberty, because
wow,
I have to play the original copy before playing Sons of Liberty, which I played, of course, original. Since then, each time Kojima released a new game about Metal Gear, I always bought the original. But for the first Metal Gear Solid, I played a copy, just like the previous for the MSX.
that is so remarkable. That's very cool. So you were obviously then very excited for 2, and I assume 3 and 4 and 5. Like pretty much after that, you were locked in. You were a big Kojima fan.
I was very interested in reading video game magazines, always looking for the latest Koshima's interview. And I remember I was very into the Metal Gear Solid, the Sons of Liberty hype back then on the magazines, because if you remember, that was the game that truly killed the Sega Dreamcast for me.
Yeah.
It was the game that Sony focused 100% on it, and I remember I believe people will play and buy the PlayStation 2 because they want to play this game.
It was
And
a
biggest
big deal.
mistake,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. The biggest mistake for me that Sega made, it wasn't released too early before of PlayStation 2, a couple of years before.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. The giant mistake was do not localize Shenmue in all the other language here in Europe,
Right.
like Konami did with Metal Gear Solid. If Sega released Shenmue with localization, with not just the subtitles, because if you don't know, here in Italy, we didn't, in Europe, Shenmue was released exclusive with English subtitles and English voice
Right.
acting, no other languages. If a game like Shenmue by Yu Suzuki was released as Konami did with Metal Gear Solid, the original from PlayStation, I believe the Sega Dreamcast will have a huge success here in Europe.
It's
Ridiculous huge.
It's really crazy because I remember when the Dreamcast died, and it was right around that time. I remember the Dreamcast kind of coming out, and like you're saying, it sort of came out early and then just died on the vine because PlayStation was hot, man. PlayStation had a lot of really good games out the gate, and they were supporting third parties, and Nintendo wasn't really going anywhere. But you're right, Shenmue is a big cornerstone in why the Dreamcast failed. Because if that game...
I consider...
Yeah, go ahead.
I consider as a sliding door. This Shenmue was... if I remember, I give you an example. I remember going into a video game store because I read many articles about how revolutionary Shenmue by Yu Suzuki was on video game magazines such as Game Republic, PSM, the original magazine of the Dreamcast here in Italy. But when I went to the video game store, I was aiming to buy a Sega Dreamcast just to play Shenmue. I didn't have a Sega Dreamcast back then. When I went to the video game store, I asked about the guy. He showed the copy of Shenmue PAL. I keep the copy in my hand. I turn it around and I see English, Spanish, German, Dutch, French. 5 flags. There was any Italian flag. I asked, okay, now can you please give me the Italian version of Shenmue? He asked me, I said, dude, there isn't any Italian version of Shenmue.
Right.
I asked, okay, can you please give me the one with Italian subtitles at least?
Nope.
No, there's no Italian subtitles. The only language is English.
So
that moment for me was the end of the Sega Dreamcast.
I find this so interesting,
though.
My
interest.
Right.
At least for the system.
But you stayed interested in Metal Gear because Metal Gear had really solid localization, and they worked really hard to make sure that different countries could experience that game. And because...
that thing was revolutionary.
Yeah, no, completely.
A video game completely localized with voice acting. That's the very important factor.
Right.
The voice was the thing that really changed people's mind, because they played a video game without looking for the teeny subtitles to the lower part of the CRTV screen. They were now able to watch the game, experience the game.
Yep.
Without with their mother tongue.
No,
that was the key.
That's an incredible.
That's the key of the success of the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
Definitely.
After that, it was only English subtitles, but the audience was already there.
Yeah.
When you captivate the audience, the teenager back then, I was around 1998. I was 15, 16 years old. When you captivate these people that age, they're gonna stay with you forever.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And all this stuff is so important because, I mean, I don't mean to jump too far ahead, but all this comes up in 5, or V, excuse me. The Phantom Pain is so much about the effect of English on other cultures and the spread of English. And, it's crazy to think that Metal Gear is so closely tied to why video games get localized the way they get localized, because, in 1998, Hideo Kojima was willing to go out and do it. He was willing to go out and say, I want my game to be presented in this way. And nobody else was doing that. Nobody else cared.
The European version was localized at Abbey Road Studios in London.
Wow. You said Abbey Road? Yeah. Where the Beatles recorded their, the White Album?
Yes. Well, the most important recording studios in the UK.
Right. So yeah, what did you think then about where the series kind of is now? What did you think of the Phantom Pain and this whole new era of Metal Gear. Peace Walker, even if you want to talk about PT a little bit, because I get that you've been a fan for a long time. We can go back and even talk about MGS2 if you'd like, but I'd like to get your how you actually got into the whole the Ruse itself. You know what I mean?
My starting point was a very long time ago. I can say I never stopped looking for news about Kojima games. I started to look for news using the internet around 2007 when I had the internet to my house. Before that, I was relying on friends' internet because I didn't have the possibility to have to connect to the net on daily basis like I can do now, for example.
Right.
So back then, the hype for MGS4 was really high. So I started to looking for forums, the Italian forum, this PlayStation magazine. I was very active back there. I was the guy who keep the main trend about MGS4 news all in one place. After that, I started to go on Italian Metal Gear Solid websites such as metalgearweb.net, which was back then the biggest Italian community for pretty much anything about Metal Gear.
Okay.
So after that, before MGS4 release, as I'm always used to willing to do, I went offline to avoid the red period where Hideo Kojima pushes the production time, where he tries to sell pre-orders for the game to the audience which is not familiar with anything was said before about this game.
Right.
So the same thing I'm doing now with Death Stranding. So after Guns of the Patriots went out, I started to go online to recover everything I've lost. So after MGS4 ended, I pretty much passed much time playing Metal Gear Online of MGS4.
So what did you
to deal with my personal phantom pain for
right.
the end of an era.
Did you play online in Subsistence?
No, I didn't play directly because I have no internet back then.
Right.
I played to a friend's house. And when I got the internet in 2007, Konami already shut down the servers for the original Metal Gear.
Yeah, they did.
I was cut out a few months before I was able to join.
Yeah, that stuff was wild. The Subsistence Metal Gear Online was a whole different thing. It was crazy. I was just curious to see.
If you go on savemgo.com, you can actually play the original MG Metal Gear Online and MGO2 on PC.
I heard that somebody kind of was able to save it, that even though the servers shut down, they sort of were able to keep the game going on private servers. So that's actually really good to know that that's real. So you were playing Metal Gear Online in its now maybe 2009, and you're always watching Kojima. You're always looking for him out on the internet. I guess 2010 is Peace Walker, right? Did you play Peace Walker?
Before Peace Walker, there was the announcement of Metal Gear Solid 5 Peace Walker, if you can say.
I remember.
And when that happened, I remember Hideo Kojima announced 2 Hideo Kojima games. It was Metal Gear Solid Rising with Raiden, with the Cyber Raiden, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. There were 2 Phantoms were born in 2009, if I can say. Right. But after on Peace Walker, the original team who developed the MGS4 was fully concentrated to develop this game, this Peace Walker from the Sony PlayStation Portable, the the PSP system.
Yeah.
So the development was very short because it was a portable system on UMD, so UMD format. The cutscenes were made by hand drawing by Hoprisco, so there it was the team was huge working also. The development, I remember, lasted pretty much just 1 year instead of 4 that usually took Hideo Kojima to create an Hideo Kojima game on home consoles.
Right.
Meanwhile, another team from the original Kojima product, the old Kojima production, was working back then to develop the Fox engine, which was unveiled in 2000 Game Developer Conference 2009.
Yeah, and that was when they started
was to tease the Fox engine when Hideo Kojima explained pretty much the development process going all during his whole career, starting from the MSX. And at the end of that presentation, I remember a picture of Raiden from Metal Gear Solid Rising was teased.
Right.
Which was the next Hideo Kojima game to be developed.
And it was going to be developed on Fox.
For home consoles.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, he would eventually show off a demo for that game as well, even though it would never be made. There's a documentary about it too. You've probably seen it. The
truth behind Rising.
Yes,
on Konami website.
Yep, the truth behind Rising, and it's got some juicy stuff in it. It's only about a half an hour, if anybody's looking for something to watch. I
remember Kojima talked about how he shifted from the original concept of Metal Gear Solid Rising, which was 100% as completed full script of a Hideo Kojima game.
Yep.
Development began. So even up to this day, nobody can say Hideo Kojima did everything he did with the Metal Gear franchise, because we're still missing the side B of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty and Mangia's 4 Guns of the Patriots, which was what was meant to be the original Rising.
Right, that's true.
The Metal Gear Solid Rising, made by Kojima Production.
And
before it was switched to Revengeance, developed along with the Platinum Games.
And that documentary too. That documentary too is also where he makes mention of the whole wanting to do a game with the boss. I'm pretty sure. That's where that quote comes from.
Well, originally it was he wanted to make a game about the boss during the World War II around 1944, when she was pregnant on a battlefield in Normandy during the famous invasion of the French Britain. The French Britain.
No, you're right. And I mean, that would have been awesome, but that seems to all be feeding into speculation about Death Stranding from a lot of angles, which we'll get to. So you played Peace Walker, which was originally, like you said, Metal Gear Solid 5 Peace Walker, but it ended up just being Peace Walker.
But I'm not sure if that MGS5 was just a change in approach, because Konami didn't want to have a numbered Metal Gear Solid on a portable system, or that was just a part of the 1984 narrative surrounding everything about this project.
Yeah.
Because I can say this for sure. When Kojima made Peace Walker, he already had in mind everything he did with Ground Zeroes and everything he did with the Phantom Pain. I don't believe he made Peace Walker thing now I'm gonna make the other. No, I believe Kojima, everything the Metal Gear Solid V experience started with Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker on home consoles. Everything Kojima did from Peace Walker on is the Metal Gear Solid V experience. Even Revengeance, even the HD releases on the PS3. The quote of Eden, he started hearing bullets in his head, included in digital manual of the MSX Metal Gear Solid from the HD collection. That wasn't included in the original.
Yeah.
It was added on the HD releases of 2011, and that is the year after Peace Walker. Because I believe everything Kojima did, any re-releases after Peace Walker, you can say it's part of the Metal Gear Solid V experience.
Well, that was right around the time that he first mentioned Project Ogre too, right? Would be like 2010, 2011. Do you separate those two? Like, is what you describe as the Metal Gear Solid V experience Project Ogre?
No, I believe Project Ogre has someone may say it was about Zone of the Enders 3, the concept he showed about the potential sequel to the Zone of the Enders 2 was the Project Ogre, the action figures of Jyoti that resembles an ogre he tweeted about.
I've seen that.
Was about Project Ogre. But I believe that when he released the original HD re-releases of Zone of the Enders for home consoles in 2011, if I remember correctly, he presented into E3 2011 on a video in which he also unveiled the first footage for the Fox engine during that interview with Mark McDonald, if I remember correctly. I believe when he saw that Zone of the Enders doesn't have a huge audience behind.
It doesn't, yeah.
Probably, if you compare it to what Metal Gear has, probably that was the moment when the Zone of the Enders 3 had a very huge problem.
Right. Yeah, that's what they've said.
Release, I remember there was also an HD collection for the PS Vita of the Zone of the Enders release, but that was cancelled, unlike the Metal Gear Solid HD collection for the PlayStation Vita, which included the MGS 2 and 3.
So you think you think that Project Ogre was pretty much just related to Zone of Enders?
I'm not sure, but probably yes, probably, but I'm not sure because Ogre, a demon in Japan, after everything he did with the Phantom Pain, you can be sure that it wasn't about the Phantom Pain, the Ogre project, the Red Ogre, the Blue Ogre, the Red and Blue team, pretty much everywhere in any trailer, any teaser trailer about the Phantom Pain. It's really difficult to consider Project Ogre as something which is not related to the Metal Gear Solid V experience.
I got you.
It's very hard to say.
Well, thank you for bringing up Zone of Enders, man, because it gets left behind a lot. People forget Zone of Enders a lot, so I'm glad it got mentioned.
Yeah, the problem is even after the Mars VR headset version they released last year of Zone of the Enders 2, I don't believe that sold too very well, because it's a game. I don't know how to say, but it doesn't have an audience.
Yeah.
To convince Konami to invest very huge on a sequel.
It's not.
But if it was for me, I would be very happy to play another Zone of the Enders, but I am not in charge at Konami, unfortunately.
Right. Well, you and Harlem Kenway would be thrilled to play another Zone of the Enders. But the thing about Zone of Enders is always that it's never been marketed well in America. I don't know how it is everywhere else, but it does.
You said right in America, but unlike US and Europe, if you go in Japan, that game was a very, very huge.
Right, and I can understand why.
Huge, even use the argument reality about this. I don't know if you remember, they made sort of like argument reality boss battle between Anubis and Jyoti for Tokyo Streets, where you can actually say Basically, you can say the gameplay of the game along the street with
That's
the max
awesome.
on one-on-one scale dimension, thanks to Argument Reality Project. I don't know if you. I tweeted about. I posted about this stuff,
You
but
ha-
I
y-
didn't cover too much.
you have to put that in the Discord for Harlem if you don't mind, because that's just too awesome. I don't know if he knows about that. He loves Zone of Enders, so that's really cool. But yeah, I know it's big in Japan, but it just seems like
This
it.
was made for the Mars release.
Right.
Was everything about the Zone of Enders Mars with the inverted the V
Yeah.
instead of the A on the title.
Yeah,
By
like
the way,
just like churches.
just like a Hideo Kojima game in the PT
Yeah.
concept from 2014.
Yep.
Just saying.
No, yeah, it's everywhere.
Just yeah, just like the J in the credits of Zone of the Enders 2 Mars.
Did you
And Metal Gear Survive.
did you
Yeah,
play
just say.
did you play PT?
There's a J. Yes, I played the PT, but I have another anecdote to say. I played the PT Silent Hills around 8 months after it was released, because you guessed it, when around the Gamescom 2014, I was already offline with with the Metal Gear Solid News. So I completely lost everything about the PT Silent Hills. I didn't know even the game existed. Kojima made. I completely lost everything.
You were
Around 8 months
offline
after.
because of
Yes.
Phantom Pain. You weren't trying to
Yes.
spoil yourself. Oh my gosh.
It was one of my friends who knows about my habits, about Hideo Kojima games. He was about to ask me about my experience with the PT Silent Hills. I asked, what the hell are you
Oh
talking
my
about? What is this
gosh.
PT? He immediately understand everything I was made. I said, okay, do yourself a favor. Don't look for this thing online. Go on your PlayStation Network, put two words on the search bar, P and T. When you see P.T. download that thing and play it.
Holy
I don't
shit,
say
dude.
why.
Yo,
I went
did you
home.
buy that guy a beer? That sounds like one of the best friends you're gonna have in your whole life.
I said, yeah, I was so thrilled about this game when I downloaded. I messaged this. I even made a live stream about when I completed the game. I didn't live stream it all my game session on it. The first part I was completely unaware it was a Hideo Kojima game. But in this first part, when I immediately looked about the HUD, I was trying to look for settings, brightness to fix everything,
Yeah.
I immediately recognized that was the same kind of HUD I saw a few months before on Ground Zeroes on my PS4. I purchased it the day Ground Zeroes came out here in Europe, 20 March 2014. So when I saw the HUD of PT, I immediately understood why my friend told me to download this thing.
Damn.
I immediately recognized this is Fox Engine.
Right.
There's no doubt. Now what the hell is this? And I played this. Before playing this PT Silent Hills, I have no experience about the Silent Hill franchise. Except the games, the demo included in the Blu-ray disc, the games released with the original PlayStation 2 magazine. I bought until the 2008 pretty much. For around the 10 years, I was a very enthusiast about the video game magazines, about the console I was owning.
Right.
I was very good about the official PlayStation magazine because I bought it just because it has the disc of the demo of the games and the PSM.
Yeah.
And I bought the purchase up until 2008. After that, after I got the internet, I pretty much stopped to buy video game magazines. It was all useless because I was always a month behind.
No, yeah, you had to leave it behind because the internet was the place to be.
Yeah, But I will always be thankful to video game magazines because thanks to them I was able to keep track of the video game world without using the internet, and I always remember the 100 more than 100 times I watched the Metal Gear Solid 3 E3 2003 or trailer, the reveal trailer of Metal Gear Solid 3. I always remember that trailer, which was, by the way, the only thing I ever watched, read it about Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater before insert my DVD-ROM inside my PlayStation 2. And before doing that, I didn't even turn out the copy of the game because I was willing to avoid any possible Meryl's Codec Easter egg spoiler.
You are a dedicated man.
I didn't even read the manual.
You are a dedicated man, Joe.
And now if I tell you this, probably you won't believe me, but I played that game without knowing anything.
No, I believe
Kojima
you.
Interview, I skipped any single image, including in the video game manual. I skipped. I used the scotch.
You're
around the pages.
You're basically
to skip everything. Yeah. I played the Snake Eater, knowing everything about that trailer. I didn't know nothing about who the boss was.
Right.
Who the Cobra unit was. Everything for me was new. The only thing I knew was a snake.
Joe, you're basically like you're like a time traveling detective. Like you skip over the lead up to the game and then you go back and you try to find everything and collect it and know it. It's incredible.
But I didn't that because I was already into the spoiler. I was not about to avoid the spoilers.
Right.
I did that because I remember what Kojima did the game before.
Right, and MGS2.
I was one of those who haven't been fooled about the Hideo Kojima hype. But even then, when I played the Sons of Liberty, I immediately recognized that there was something wrong. After the tanker finished, and I saw this guy, I thought, okay, Snakes is dead, maybe it's not. Then the tanker starts, I see a hole in the fence. Who made this hole?
Right.
When I ride it, okay, go on.
He gives it away. He gives it away early. Because Pliskin has the bugs on him. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I see a guy in the elevator with a bandana. Okay, I know that guy.
Right.
Now everything after is gonna be fun. Now I met the so-called hero quiet Pliskin. Okay, I know who you are, dude. You can go on every time you want.
So
That was very incredible, that game.
I gotta ask you the big question though, Joe. Is Death Stranding? I know you're avoiding everything. We're not going to talk about anything specific.
Everything after, including the Gamescom.
Yeah.
After the Gamescom. But I know everything much before that. Of course.
And of course.
Before.
But I won't mention anything new. But all I gotta ask is, what do you think about it? What is it? Is it Metal Gear? Is it Silent Hill? Is it PT? Is it its own thing? What are we looking at when we look at Death Stranding? What's Joe's take on it? Go ahead. I'm going to give you the floor. Take it away.
Talking about the thing I saw, which, it's not what the people saw. Because I know the audience saw much more about what I saw. I can say this. I don't believe this game is 100% something related to Silent Hill in a sense, or Metal Gear in a sense. I believe Hideo Kojima is clickbaiting his old audience for a reason. That reason, I don't know. I don't know why he's doing this. It may be that reason or that other one reason. Everything I know is that this is a 100% Hideo Kojima's burger. And that's all I need to know. If you know what I mean, with burger.
Yeah, I know what you mean with burger. I know 100% what you mean.
This is a reference to
The
the
cause,
hamburgers
yeah,
of Katsura Miller
the
tape
right,
from the Phantom.
the chemical burgers versus the the real. Dude.
The subtext of that tapes I am referring to,
I'm with
which
you.
is very. If Kojima is clickbaiting his old audience for, I don't know, he wants to sell pre-orders. Maybe he doesn't want to leave the old audience too much far away from his new creature.
Right.
I don't know what's the plan. Nobody can know for sure the plans. If that Stranding it's its own new IP completely, but I can tell you this: from the thing I saw, I played Metal Gear Survive, and every time I hear a chanting wail when I'm looking to the lobby screen looking for other players with the wormhole dig icon spinning around, I knew exactly what the reference of that J-producted game from Konami is. I don't believe it's a coincidence. You may say it's a clickbait by Konami to those who believe in the Ruse. I don't know, but I know there's some explicit references in Survive, the so-called non-Hideo Kojima game after Kojima left that company, reference about the new Hideo Kojima game. So I'm asking why this. Is that all a clickbait from a side, another clickbait from the other side? Everyone is clickbaiting each other audiences for profit, or there's something else cooking behind the scenes?
I gotta say, Joe, that's one of the most reasonable takes anybody's ever offered on this show. Just in the sense of, like you started with, it's not necessarily going to be Metal Gear or Silent Hill in the fullest sense, right? There might be a little bit of it in there to kind of bring you along.
We know that this notorious liar already lied about Death Stranding before the game came out. We know that.
Yes,
we
true.
witnessed that.
Right.
So this is a fact. Now this fact can be interpreted by away from those who believe there is a ruse going on, and by those who doesn't believe Kojima is making a big, let's say, another big strike in the eyes of the audience.
Well, he's playing. He's playing a trick, right? And somebody's gonna get tricked. That's the
fact. Kojima is. He knew. Let me say this very clear. Hideo Kojima was, and always will be the #1 fan and fanboy of its own games.
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
No one can take that place. Will always be taken by him. That's a fact.
You're right.
And if you think that this man who betrayed this man that built his audience by betraying continuously his audience for almost 20 years, even further, if you think that this man just stops to act that way, I'm feeling you are wrong.
Right.
You're gonna be disappointed.
Right.
Because this is we have a saying around here in Italy: "Chi nasce rotondo non muore quadrato," which in English translates as "If you're born circled, you doesn't die square." You know what I mean?
I don't know if I do. If you're
Kojima,
yeah, go ahead.
If you are born shaped shaped as a circle, you're never gonna die shaped as a square.
Right.
Your nature is being circle. Kojima's nature is to betray his audience.
Yeah.
This is how he entertains his audience. Now the big question is, who is gonna be betrayed?
Right. Exactly.
And why?
Exactly. And
this is the $1 million question, if you ask me.
No, it's the biggest thing riding on the release, right? Because at this point,
but I don't believe
someone's going to be betrayed.
But I don't believe then the release will now say this. What I believe is, after Death Stranding, pretty much, those who believe in the Ruse will continue to believe there's a Ruse going on and will have more material to believe that.
Right.
And those who don't believe in the Ruse will have more material to believe there's any Ruse going on. This is what I believe.
You think it won't
Pretty
end?
much everything changes, so nothing changes. This is you can say this is my prediction after Death Stranding is finished. Unless there's some nuclear disarmament event, some community sticked event for Death Stranding, which keeps the fan base or the community, the audience locked, as it happened with the Phantom Pain.
Right.
Which, by the way, was for me a 100% scheduled event. And Kojima was 100% aware about this. Do you remember the picture where he was climbing on a structure with a Christmas hat on his head around the half or two of the 2018?
Yes, and that's when they did disarmament.
6 months before Christmas. What's the point of posting a Christmas picture 6 months before Christmas? He didn't release any game for Christmas.
Right.
What happened? Well, I want to talk with this picture in particular because those who are familiar with Hideo Kojima will look this picture. Okay, that's just a Hideo Kojima's shit post, another one.
Yeah.
Those who are not familiar will say, I have no idea what this is. Now I will tell you my take. That picture is a scene recreation of an event that really occurred when Hideo Kojima was making the Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker World Promotional Tour. When he was in a building in New York, along with the actual Kojima Production new member Aki Saito, which is the marketing leader. I remember he gets stuck with the staff inside an elevator in a building in New York. To come out from that elevator, a ladder from above was provided. And there's a footage of that. There's a video of that from the Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker YouTube channel. I uploaded on both my subreddit and of Never Be Game Over about that episode. When you can see Kojima from behind climbing the ladder, he look back and makes the oh yeah, the fancy gesture, everything was all right, and then he climbed the ladder and came out. That was Peace Tour. Keep in mind the Peace Walker Tour.
This is what I've always liked about you, Joe. I gotta say though, real quick.
If you belong to,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you belong to the audience like me, who is aware about everything Kojima made. You know, when you see that Christmas picture of 2018 that Kojima is recreating that moment, it was something about peace, the Peace Tour, peace. And then he has a Christmas hat on his head. That was in enigmistic we call it a rebus. You have to watch the picture, and from the picture you have to understand the hints. The hints was the Peace Tour, for me, my interpretation, of course. The Peace Tour, the moment when Kojima was stuck in a ladder in 2010, it was a peace reference that those who follow the Peace Walker will recognize. And the hat was the time when that reference was about to was about to happen. So basically, Kojima was trying to say, peace is coming on Christmas.
Right.
6 months before it actually happened. What we have in Christmas on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Xbox One, Xbox 360 for the very first time, the secret nuclear disarmament was achieved.
Yep.
By the way, in one way or another was achieved for the very first time. in Christmas, around 27, 28 December, which is Christmas for me.
Okay, so
So
this is what I was
my
gonna say. Go ahead. I'm sorry if you're
I-
just not finished. Go ahead.
I believe Hideo Kojima is full aware about everything happens at Konami. Everything. So what Kojima was doing is telling to the audience his own way that disarmament was about to happen on Christmas.
Absolutely.
Basically, the year before the new burger was provided to the audience, because we are just around the release of that sign. So that part of the experience was about to end.
Yeah.
With the disarmament.
Well,
A year before the next episode of the Metal Gear Solid V experience for people who believe in the Ruse was about to be released.
right. The disarmament need to occur, and then the next chapter would kind of begin. But no, what I was gonna say, man, is that this is something I've always liked about you. Is you talk about these kind of recreating a scene moments in some of your posts, and I think a lot of people don't understand it at first. But what you're describing here is actually like really important, because you're somebody who has always had an eye on Kojima. You know, you followed his career. You are what would be considered a diehard dedicated fan. And as a result, you could see, you know, something happened to him while he was on the Peace Tour, and then he, you know, more or less it occurred to him to kind of, you know, make a nod back to that so that people like you would see it. And he did this in Ground Zeroes. Like, there's a whole mission, it was, you know, DLC, but there's a mission in Ground Zeroes that requires you to recreate scenes. And I always kind of like how you tied that in, because it's a good way to actually contextualize things. You know, you need all the information to be able to make sense, even though sometimes I think when you first look at it, it seems like it doesn't make any sense because you might not have what you need.
That mission you're talking about is mainly dedicated and focused for the new audience.
That's
of
true.
The game.
Yeah, that's true.
That the new generation of players needs to re-experience Metal Gear Solid, because they weren't born back then.
Right.
That mission wasn't for us, it was for them. That's why Kazuya tells to the player, bravo, you recreated a scene that you never experienced before, because you weren't, maybe you weren't a fan, you didn't play the game, you weren't even born back then. So that mission was for them, for the new generation, not for us.
Huh. That's a really good way of
For
looking
that-
at it, man. I actually really like that interpretation, and I agree with you, I think. Because that idea
The
of...
problem is with this, that the snake that plays that mission, which is the player's vessel for the game,
Mhm.
is it that true? Is it that the true snake, the same one we experience in the Phantom Pain, or is that the big boss who doesn't remember anything about this or is that the old player who doesn't remember anything about the old games because too much time has passed since 1998,
Right.
or
Yeah.
maybe it's both
Well, it's...
at the same time.
That mission's title is Deja Vu, right? And the other...
Deja vu. I remember the other one is Jamais Vu.
Yeah, Jamais
a
Vu.
French word.
Right, but so what you're describing, like if you're a new player and you just got Ground Zeroes, you haven't played any of the other Metal Gears, what happens in the Deja Vu mission is actually Jamais Vu, because you've never experienced it, and yet it's, it's happened before. Whereas like Deja Vu would be for us, right? We would be experiencing Deja Vu because we know we've done these recreations. We're recreating those scenes knowing what happened beforehand. But somebody who's new, it's the opposite, right? They can't have Deja Vu because they never experienced it before.
The final question quiz in the Deja Vu mission is very interesting because it really asks the player, do you really remember the original Metal Gear from the 1998?
Right.
But when that mission ends, whoever made that quiz, he returns to his cell. Wherever that cell is, metaphorically, physically, is being closed and locked, wherever that is. If you listen very carefully to the sound of that mission. I usually play every game with the headset I'm using now, which is a 7.1 surround sound compatible DTS everything device.
Right.
I have something to say. If you play it any Hideo Kojima game using just the TV speakers, and you're looking for something new, try to use an headset, a professional headset. A complete new world will open to your mind.
It's not a bad idea.
To your ears.
It's not a bad idea.
Because, dude, this game, the sound design of the Metal Gear Solid V experience is incredibly and deeply important. If you consider just what you see and what you see on displayed on the subtitles, this is just one part of the picture. You're losing the other 15% of the experience.
No, you're 100% correct.
You listen in any cassette tape with the proper headset, it's another whole level of experience. You will hear something that you didn't hear before. Any technical sound effect, rewinding on the cassette tape inside a Walkman, this thing gets overlooked pretty much by 95% of the audience, I may say.
Yeah.
Because not because they don't pay attention, but because they are not listening with the proper equipment, in my opinion.
No, you're definitely correct. Like, the audio is worked on as much as anything else. You know, as much attention is spent on the audio as anything else. When you're making the game, I mean.
The problem is when you play a game like the Phantom Pain, if you play the video game with having just the intention to have just fun playing a video game without paying too much attention to anything else, it will remain just a video game. After you finish, you're gonna skip to the next trend, the next trending game, the one that your friends are playing, and pretty much when you play a game like the Phantom Pain, I don't believe people really listen cassette tapes. It's
right.
Just that little yellow dot you have to skip to get access to the next action sequence. Nobody pays attention to anything about the game.
Yeah, and it was set up that way on purpose. You know, it was really set up by design to make sure the only people who would get all the information were the ones who would listen to everything.
The problem is I don't know if I have much time left now.
Oh, that's okay, man. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground.
Maybe I have another 10 minutes, maybe.
Well, then in that case, is there anything that you feel like we haven't brought up yet that you really want to get off your chest or talk about? We can use the last 10 minutes for that. And then whenever you need to go, it's okay. Just let me know and we'll wrap it up.
Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker is the most important game that you didn't pay attention to. Even Ground Zeroes and even PT. This is everything I have to say.
That's all you got to say?
Walker,
what about Peace Walker?
Yes.
What about Peace Walker makes it so important? Is there anything in Peace Walker that you think people overlook? That's major, I guess?
When Big Boss drops... this is a spoiler for Peace Walker. There is a scene where when Big Boss truly understands the will of the boss.
Yeah.
And when that happens, he drops the bandana, which is the bond that he still has with her.
It's the strand that ties them together.
Yeah. When he drops that bandana in front of Strangelove and the Peace Walker, who is sinking himself to prevent the nuclear strike from the US based on the fake nuclear data, that moment Snake became Big Boss. But after that moment, we saw the cutscene of Katsuhira Miller, which revealed that he worked with Cypher
Yeah.
to Snake.
Yeah.
And that cutscene, Snake still has the bandana on his head. You can't change in 3D model. When the HD collection came out in 2011, if that was a mistake, it was the perfect opportunity to fix it.
Right.
But guess what? Hideo Kojima didn't. And I don't believe in coincidence, only in oversight. There has to be a very deep meaning behind that bandana in that specific cutscene. I don't believe that cutscene in particular, which happens after the sinking of the Peace Walker, where Big Boss drops his bandana and with that any ties he has with the boss.
Oh.
So that is not an oversight to me. I believe Hideo Kojima, you know what he did? Okay.
He changed
leave
the
that
continuity.
thing here. I believe Kojima, which, by the way, he made cameos before in his games, but in the Metal Gear Solid V experience, unlike with the previous ones, he appears to the player as a character. He's not
he's
a
in,
picture,
he's
it's
in the
not a
games.
voice. He is inside the game. He met Snake right before Huey in Peace Walker, in that mission inside the truck. He meets the new Snake in Ground Zeroes in its own dedicated mission, classified intel agent, to rescue the classified intel agent, which is Hideo, named Hideo, which the similar mission happens in the Phantom Pain also. So Kojima appears as himself in Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes, and the Phantom Pain. There's a reason for that. This is a change in approach for him.
It is.
It's not the cameo he made in the past. It's something completely different.
Well,
Just
I mean,
as the experience.
even in MGS1, right, the only cameos were as ghosts in the camera. So it's a very, very different approach.
It was a ghost as the data developers, and it was on the Japanese version.
Yes, the Japanese version, you can hear him talk.
If you have a save file of Snatcher and Police NAS for PlayStation on your memory card when Psycho Mantis reads your past, so to say, if you have those two games, Kojima will thank you for all your support, as he recreated in Ground Zeroes after you erase all the marks.
Well, and that's why Ground Zeroes is so interesting too, because I was just talking today with some of the guys in the Discord about how, you know, it starts with a climb up a cliff face, and that's how Metal Gear Solid Snake starts. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake starts, where Snake climbs up a cliff face. There's a lot of little references in Ground Zeroes to things from the past that you would only pick up on if you were a diehard fan.
The Ground Zeroes opening is the most rosy, is the most moment of the entire experience to me.
Yeah?
That moment, everything you think is a ruse is Camp Omega. Camp Omega holds all the answers you're looking for the entire experience, including Death Stranding for me. But all those answers are hidden in plain sight.
Do you want to...
Which is the plain sight will always be the last place people are going to look for answers. And that's, in my experience, is Hideo Kojima's favorite hiding spot on anything about secrets. If you do like to think about that in that way.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's the reason why I used the Camp Omega symbol for the Hideo Kojima subreddit, because there's nothing more Kojima or tricky of that icon to me, which originally Hideo Kojima told it was meant to switch to the Konami logo in the Ground Zeroes opening during an IGN interview on IGN in 2014. But then, for some reason, he changed his mind. So when we start the Ground Zeroes, Camp Omega remains just as like that. Maybe in retrospect, he didn't want people to be too much focused on Camp Omega because of a Konami logo. Maybe because it was a guy who speaks about the law physics, the Schrödinger cat, what that like, a prisoner at Camp Omega. the wave function, the Death Stranding conversation of Death Soldier was looks like a reference to the future of the experience.
Right. That prisoner.
Yeah. So the prisoner talks about when I listened to that prisoner, I thought, what the hell is talking about? What's the stuff?
Yeah.
Then Survive came out. After to Survive, there's Death Stranding. So maybe I'm starting to understand what that soldier wasn't trying to say on his way. Very sneaky to the player who was looking for everything, of course, at Camp Omega, from 0 to Omega, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Omega seems to be the perfect origin point on anything.
Well, and it's always made sense. It's ground zeros. It's where
Ground
it all
Zeroes,
it all began there. The end of the beginning.
Supposedly, the end of Peace Walker, the prequel to the Phantom Pain.
Yep.
The prequel to the alternate of Survive, the game which contains a link to the original Metal Gear Solid with the Deja Vu mission and his VR mission expansion, and with Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance with the JAMA version.
Yeah.
Who knows why?
Well, yeah, who knows?
I don't believe it was all marketing or just a demo, $5 demo, just to give more gameplay to the player. It's a type of gameplay that very few people understand, the one of Ground Zeroes.
No, I agree with you.
It's not just completing a mission in 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, it's such a weird game. People say it's the new VR missions. People say, and I mean that in the sense that, like, you know, you've played VR missions.
Ground Zeroes is Metal Gear Solid V. Ground Zeroes is the most overlooked Hideo Kojima game of all time, in my opinion. People really believe it's just a demo. A demo is completely different.
No, yeah.
This is a 100% Hideo Kojima game, a 100% episode of the Metal Gear Solid V experience. It's the second episode of the Metal Gear Solid V experience. The third one is PT, the first one is Peace Walker, the fourth one is Metal Gear Survive, and maybe the fifth one is gonna be Death Stranding. If you don't count the HD collection releases and Revengeance as a side ops of the main episodes of the experience.
Yeah,
but for me, this is the picture, so to speak.
You've painted a wonderful picture today, man. It was incredible to talk to you. I'm really glad you came on. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you said you gotta go.
The main problem is that people didn't join this game, this experience all at the same time. This experience started very long time ago, in 2010, with the release of Peace Walker. So people are reading a book not from the beginning, but from the middle,
right?
Which is Ground Zeroes, or from the end, which is the Phantom Pain or Survive.
Yeah,
a chapter pretty much nobody give the attention about, because that was the current trend the current trend in the video game universe. The game sucks, don't care about this game, there's nothing for you in this game, it's just a cash grab by Konami using the Fox engine. How wistful and aware they were.
Right, you're so right, man.
I would say, I'm quoting a character from Metal Gear Survive. Good luck. That's exactly what we need now. Good luck for the future of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. If this is the audience that pretty much believe everything is being told without questioning anything. They accept the reality of the world with the way with which they are presented. Just as Christoph says in the Jim Carrey's movie, I don't remember the title, The Truman Show. You ever saw The Truman Show?
Yeah, I've seen
that movie.
Yeah.
I made a video about the ending of this movie associated with the promotion of Survive. pretty much I nailed it at the ending of that game, where the character is stuck there. He can't leave the game. He belongs there, just like Truman. But unlike Truman, the Metal Gear Survive Avatar have no door to open to go out. There's no wormhole at the moment. It's still there. Who knows for how long, even after that's running.
I'm gonna have to check that video out, Joe. Is it on your channel?
Yeah, it's called Metal Gear Survive, The Truman Show. That's the title.
I'll give it a watch, and I'll make sure I put a link to your channel in my description for this video, if that's cool. And if you want,
my channel isn't important.
Okay, no problem, man. I was just gonna say if you want a shout out, I'd be happy to give it. But yeah, no,
I'm pretty much out of time now. I have to close.
No problem, man. It was awesome to talk to you. I'm so glad you came on. If you ever want to come back, yeah, feel free.
Maybe next time I can talk about some specifics, some specific question you can ask me about the Metal Gear Solid experience, not about Death Stranding.
Yeah, I want to definitely listen back to some of what you said and kind of pick your brain about what you think about the Phantom Pain in specifics, because I don't want to talk about anything you don't want to get spoiled on. You know what I mean?
The Phantom Metal Gear Solid V, the Phantom Pain, at the moment is my favorite Hideo Kojima game of all time.
Really? Yeah, that's what we'll talk about next time then. But go ahead. Yeah, say what you want.
Yeah. I pretty much have nothing more.
Okay. No problem.
I'm okay now.
Cool. But no, I'd love to talk about the Phantom Pain if you'd like to come on again. I think it would be a good conversation.
Oh, there's a whole world to talk about the Phantom Pain.
Absolutely, man. But I'll let you go. You have a good day. I think it's late over where you are, so I don't know what you're doing.
It's 11 p.m. around here.
Well, get some rest, man. Yeah, you take care, okay? I'm gonna hop out of the call. Thank you for coming on, Joe. Have a good one.
Thank you for your support, I would say. I'm quoting Hideo.
Dude.
Thank you for all your support, yours and all the people who just follow my stuff, my shit posts, if you would like to know. Maybe one day they will have completely another meaning in their eyes. There will be less shit posts and more something else. Who knows what?
Yeah.
That will be.
I hope so, man. All right, you take care.
Okay, thank you. I'm about to close the conversation. How I have to do?
I think you just you got it. All right.
I have to press the button, the red button here.
I think so. It should say disconnect. You have a good one, man. Oh man, he'll figure it out. Joe, dude, we got him, man. That was I had to kind of play that one a little bit differently because I wasn't sure. This whole time I was told there was going to be a big language barrier, and I wasn't exactly sure what that meant until we started talking. And honestly, it wasn't that bad at all. Like it's not any it's not any worse than anything else, honestly, between this show with like technical issues and all the stuff that happens around here. So we just actually had a good little sit down and got to pick Italian Joe's brain. I didn't know what I was gonna get from him, and I got so much. I actually have to go back and listen to this. Maybe I'll premiere the episode or something, so I actually have an excuse to sit down and watch it, because Joe is exactly in some ways exactly what I thought it would be like, and in other ways completely different. It just goes to show the amount of people and the spread geographically, the diversity is at high levels here in the Ruse. But I don't know, man. I really like a lot of what he had to say, and then some of it I really have to kind of think about and fit in with what I already know. But it's just, we all know Joe. We know Joe, like you said right at the end there, from his quote unquote shit posting, which I don't necessarily think what he does is shit posting. I think it's Joe posting, right? It's got its own unique thing going on. But I don't know, what a great opportunity to just meet the man behind the post. Um, Gosh, I got nothing else. I'll be back with something for you. Take care.